I have to say that every time we come down here, you guys warm my heart. It's so good to see you all. We're working through, last week I mentioned that Psalm 119 talks about path through grief. And this morning, we're kind of toward the end after grief has done its work. You can open your Bibles to Psalm 119 if you would, and we're going to start with verse 145 this morning. But I'd like to give you a picture, a model, a paradigm for what I think the psalmist is saying. And I think the easiest way to do that is to tell you that one of our favorite shows is Dancing with the Stars. You guys watch that at all? Yes. And they start out and they're clumsy and they get a little less clumsy and then some of them get to be really, really good. And along about week 7, we're saying, nah, they're not going to make it. But if they were actually on a dance floor where we were, everybody would clear out to watch them. You know, they become really, really good. And if you've watched Dancing with the Stars, and you listen to the judges, you know that Bruno is all about the show, and Carrie Ann is all about the emotion, and Lynn is all about the precision, the details. Does the dancer do what the dance requires? And it's fascinating to note that the dancers who listen to Len and who actually do learn what the dance requires end up being the dancers that provide the show and generate the emotion. And that's true of our life in God. That's true of our interactions with Jesus. And that's especially true as we move through a grief or a loss or a crushing. The psalmist writes, I call with all my heart. Answer me, O Lord, and I will obey your decrees. I call out to you. Save me, and I will keep your statutes. Now, as I mentioned, this is at the end of your grief process. This is at the end of all the work that we have to do in order to move through a loss. And here at the end, the psalmist, in essence, says, to continue our metaphor, I need to learn to dance again. I need to learn the steps. I need to learn the precision. He says, I call, and this is the only time he says this in the psalm, I call with all my heart. For the first time, now I have a whole heart. For the first time, I'm not calling with part of my heart. For the first time, I am not hoping for you and hoping for someone else as well, or something else. And of all of the gifts that pain gives us, this is the deepest. Pain does, if we let God use it, clear our hearts. Not, of course, while we're feeling the pain, but in the aftermath. When we've done the processing, when we've done the work, our focus, I don't want to say our focus narrows, but our focus polarizes. It's like putting a polarizing lens on an SLR camera. All the interfering wavelengths fall away, and the images become crisp and vivid. We see clearly for the first time. We call with all our hearts. We say, okay, Lord, my heart is finally entirely mine to give to you. Answer me. And with all the passion and the built-up pain and the relief from pain and all of that roiling, we cry to God, and we almost would expect that God would respond in kind. We cry to God with all our hearts, and we think, surely this time the heavens will open and the light will shine and lightning will fall down and can finish changing the color of my hair. You know, we want the big response. But the psalmist says, answer me, O Lord, and I'll obey your decrees. Answer me, O Lord, by teaching me the steps. Make me precise. The very first dancing lesson I ever took, I was trying to learn the jitterbug. And the woman who was teaching me said, watch me, Richard. Put your foot here, put your foot there. Just move, Richard. Stop bouncing, Richard. It was years before I had another dance lesson. But that is, in essence, what the psalmist is telling us. I will follow your decrees. Tell me what they are so that I can put my little foot right here. Completely, fully obedient. I don't want my foot half on and half off of the step chart. I don't want to almost obey, he says. Put my foot right here. It's not the huge emotional response from God that we would expect once we've offered our whole heart. But it is the response that does for us what Len does for the dancers on Dancing with the Stars. It is the response that gets our technique precise and perfect so that the show and the emotion can flow. There's a lot of wisdom in this couplet. And this is the first step of the dance we are called to learn. You can summarize it and say, in any situation, in any condition, our first response is to obey, to learn the step, to get it right. Regardless of the cost, regardless of how pure we think our motives need to be, regardless of our desire for something else, I will obey your decrees. I will keep your statutes. Next movement, verse 147 and 148. I rise before dawn and cry out for help. I rise before dawn and cry for help. I have put my hope in your word. My eyes stay open through the watches of the night, that I may meditate on your promises. Movement evokes emotion. It's powerful for that. Movement, watching others move. You know, guys, how many guys watch football or baseball or skating or you watch sports? Yes. And I know that when the skater goes up for that triple Lutz, I can feel my thighs tense. Oh man. we respond to movement. And when a dancer begins learning a new choreography, a new show, they need to concentrate on the physical, on the movements. And I knew a woman who taught dance at Interlochen. She would say the students would come in, high school students, and they'd have this whole wall of mirrors in front of them, and they'd whirl across the floor, and of course they looked terrible. But they thought they were gorgeous. They hadn't learned the movements. Once the dancer learns the motions, at that point, the dancer can add the emotions that the motions will carry, that the motions will sustain. And in this sense, I think the Father is a wise choreographer. The psalmist says, I have put my hope in your word. I'm expecting that what I desire, my hope, is going to come to me through the following of your statutes, through the precision of the movements that I have learned. The psalmist is saying, okay, Lord, I am going to trust you that at the end, no matter what happens between now and then, your patterns will prove to have been right all along. And I expect at that point, he will be grateful for having learned them. And he says, not only am I going to trust your choreography, I am going to meditate on your promises. I am going to allow the steps you have taught me to sink deep into my heart, deep into my character. I'm going to allow them to change my emotions so that my emotions fit the motion. I'm going to allow them to modify me so that the steps become easy. Then I will call to you with my emotions and my actions, with my gut as well as my words, and I will trust you to answer me. So this is the second step. The second use that we can put the gifts pain has given us to. We meditate on the promises that apply to our situations. We allow them to sink into our beings so that our obedience becomes more than just sheer raw obeying. Third movement. Hear my voice in accordance with your love. Renew my life, O Lord, according to your laws. So we call for healing, and God, he says, renew my life, O Yahweh, O Lord. Lord God, you are the I am that I am. Be to me all that you are. Change my life so that it is like your life. Hear me, not even according to the precision of my steps of obedience, not even according to my emotions that I've modified with these meditations. Hear me according to your steadfast love. Hear me according to the love that will not let me go. Hear me according to the love that has loved me before I knew that I needed it. Hear me according to the love that is going to love me after I die and into eternity. Hear me according to the love that sustains every atom of my body and every thought in my mind and every emotion in my heart and every sensation of my gut by your ongoing, constant, never failing attention. That's how I need you to hear me. Oh Lord, I need you to be fully involved in this dance I'm learning. You've given me the steps. You've given me a path to the emotions. Now I need you to dance with me. I need you to hear me. I need you to sustain me. Otherwise, you know, when dancers learn their parts, very often they learn their parts kind of in secret, not in secret, but in private. You practice your steps over and over and over again. You practice not on the stage with other dancers. So you kind of have to trust that the choreographer is going to work it all together and not just take your steps and mix them up at random and run into other dancers and fall down and break something. At this point, we've promised God our actions. We've promised God our emotions. We're asking Him to choreograph our lives, and we're saying, Lord, I need even more than that. I need you. All of this first part of the psalm, is an answer to the question that the psalmist implies in the first verse, where he says, I call. We always, in any given situation, we always have to answer the question, to whom am I going to call? And the reason for that is contained in the last 3 verses. Because those who devise wicked schemes are near. There are plenty of voices around to listen to. And they're not, by any means, all voices outside of our heads. We have plenty of voices in our heads that we will listen to. Those who devise wicked schemes are near. They may not even know that they are wicked. Give you advice with the best of intentions. Tell you what you should be desiring with the best of motives. They are near, but they're far from your law. Yet you are near, O Lord, and all your commands are true. Second question then is, which near one are we going to pay attention to? Which near one are we going to listen to? I'll tell you right now, your other dance partners will leave you. Your other dance partners will wear out and die. Your other dance partners will fire you, lay you off, right-size you. Your other dance partners will step on your toes, crush your heart, leave you limping. God is the one who will keep dancing with us forever. Long ago I learned from your statutes that you established them to last forever. As I was reading this, I thought back to some of the first dances that I ever went to. You remember those junior high dances? It's nearer to some of you than it is to me, but I remember them very clearly. You wanted to know how to dance. So if you're my generation, you watched American Bandstand or Soul Train. Could never do any of those. And you looked at magazines and you got your hair cut the way that it said it was, and you dressed up in your snazziest clothes. Dark brown leisure suit made of polyester. Yeah. It was the big time. We wanted to do it right. So we got all snazzed up, all dressed up. It was probably the first time any of us wore perfume or cologne, so we wanted to be sure that we had enough of it, you know. And so, you know, you and your date, as your mom's driving you to the dance, you're kind of surreptitiously rolling down the windows so that the fog in the car can clear, you know. And you get into the gym, and fortunately, it's got a high ceiling, so all the Brut and the Prince Machiavelli and the Anjali perfume that the girls had borrowed from their mom kind of dissipated until, of course, you started dancing. And your bodies heat up and the smell gets in. And if you actually have to leave the gym, you feel like you got to put on a gas mask to come back in. But as the evening goes on, behaviors change. You start out to dance, you're willing for your date to dance with anyone. But as the band starts slowing the numbers down, and the last dance was always a slow dance, you wanted to be sure that you and your girl were dancing together. And you made arrangements. Dance a last dance with me. Here's God saying, I want to dance the last dance with you. Here's us saying, Father, I want to dance the last dance with you. Here's God saying, yeah, I've seen your life. Lots of times you ditch me for those other dancers. Lots of times you stink it up. But I was near to you at the beginning of the dance. From the first time I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And I will sustain you at the end of the dance. Because I want you to dance with me forever. You know, dancers say that if you work with one partner long enough, you can anticipate each other's movements. The discipline that you put in makes you move more and more and more like one person. And that's certainly true of our dance with God. We put in the work, we put in the discipline, and more and more and more, our responses become like His. Whether you're coming out of grief or not, I suspect the odds are pretty good, well, I think the odds are pretty good, that all of us sitting here and standing here in this room this morning have a situation in our life where we just need to put down the foot chart and say, that's where that foot goes. I just need to obey. I'd like to encourage you to do that. First step. Second step, again, meditate on the decrees. Find a promise that applies. Mull on it. Chew on it. Let it affect your emotions until your emotions come in line with what you know is true of the Father's character. Third, try to sort out who is offering you wicked schemes. Lay aside, if you can, any thought that your situation will change, any thought of comfort, any thought of relief that will take you outside of what God has revealed to you as His desire and purpose for you. It's easy to actively choose to sin in order to get some relief. Why not? God will forgive, that's His job. But then we don't learn to dance. You know, they said of Fred Astaire that as fine a dancer as he was, his real skill was making his dancing partners look good. We have a dancing partner whose real skill is changing us so that we are good. And that's a dancing partner I certainly want to dance with.